Jerry,
Good morning.
how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Well, the NBA season's getting going. It's such a pleasure to have you here, and we're so close to it. But before I get into hoops, I do know that you're here to talk about a bigger picture about AFib specifically. How about you're feeling today about the way you're helping others in this cause?
Well, I've had a condition, it's AFib. It's a irregular heartbeat, and it's very dangerous for strokes. And I've teamed with Janssen Pharmaceuticals to make people aware of how dangerous strokes are. And I take one of their drugs, Xarelto, which to me it's once daily. But I think the most important thing about anyone who has AFib, and there's a lot of people that have it, and if you have it, 1 in 3 people are going to have a stroke. And many times it's the most devastating thing a person can have, absolutely devastating. And I don't want to be in that category, and that's why I take Xarelto. I visit with my doctors all the time. I want to be informed. It's a latest generation blood thinner. So for me, this is my chance to maybe help someone avoid a stroke. But it's more importantly, it's about information that you get from your doctors. And again, at this point in my life, I just don't want to be confined to a wheelchair. I'm much too active. I like to do things that most people my age don't like to do. Work out, lift weights, kind of a healthy lifestyle. And so that's why I'm so cautious about my personal health today.
Do you get a reaction from other people saying, if it could happen to you, it could happen to me because you're Jerry West and I'm not an athlete?
Well, every day we get up, we're hopeful the day will be fun and exciting, but if you see some of the crazy things that happen in this world today, you just don't know what your fate is. But when you know you have a pre-existing condition it's a heart condition, obviously it's something that you have to really be concerned about, and you have to be aware of what's going on. And that's why, again, my message is to go and look at my afibchoice.com. It's my own personal story about my own health issues, and I would advise everyone that has this condition or possibly can have it. And it usually starts occurring for people who are in their 50s, and a lot of times people can have an operation, they'll come out with AFib, and then that's when you have to start taking blood thinners. And again, my choice is Xarelto.
Yeah. We're so close to the NBA season. You guys have wrapped up camp, essentially, preseason. When you see the new look Warriors, I mean, it's a lot of the same old cast of characters, and then you bring in maybe the best scorer in the world, one of the best 3 players in the world, in Kevin Durant. How much more buzz is there to this team, especially around the fans, but also around the other players now that they see Kevin Durant wearing that uniform?
Well, last year we were kind of America's team. Everywhere we went, there were pardon me. I'm looking at a gentleman out here who's got a Laker shirt on. But Warrior shirts, people would show up before the game. We've got a very exciting player in Steph Curry, and his warm-up routine is almost like batting practice. But now we have 3 of them, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Curry. And it's a pleasure to watch these guys just shoot. I mean, it's amazing the shots they can make and how many they can make in a row. And if you look at the size of them, one of them is 6'2½", the other one's about 6'6", and the other one says he's 6'9", but he's taller, believe me. To watch 3 players of that have that unique talent is really something special, and they're all great people. And we were very fortunate to get Kevin. I think the NBA, I say last year we was kind of America's team. We might be the team that would be looked at as villain this year, but trust me, if they knew these people, they would never question what kind of people they are.
You told me a few weeks ago here on Facebook Live, Jerry, that if you went back to your career, you would have loved the opportunity to maybe leave LA. And we saw that happen with Kevin Durant, who gave 9 seasons to that franchise and comes to Oakland to be a part of the Warriors. The criticism that he's gotten and probably will continue to get, I know you said it's bothered you to a degree because he's earned the right to do that, especially given how much he's already given that franchise. Unfortunately for them, they never won a championship. He wanted the opportunity to win as many championships as possible, and clearly was not about the money.
Well, I think one of the things that's really sad is they blame him. The owners should look in a mirror, and they should blame themselves. The collective bargaining agreement allows players to make a choice in their lives. And when I was a player, we didn't have that choice. And when someone has lied to you repeatedly, I'm old-fashioned. I don't like it. You can tell me no, but don't lie to me or deceive me. I think a lot of people who are sitting out there have been deceived in their lives. That's probably the most awkward thing in the world. Kevin was not deceived. I was. But if they're going to blame Kevin, they better blame the system, not him. He gave that franchise to everything. He was a great contributor to the city, and he made a choice not based upon what everyone thought he should do, but he made a choice based upon what he wanted to do. And why he made that choice, we're not sure. And that's honest. I have no clue, because I had no idea we would be able to get a player of that caliber.
You were essentially the last person on Golden State to talk to Kevin Durant. Did you have any inclination that he was going to come to Oakland?
Well, my conversation with him was really brief, and I told him he should follow his heart, and that was about it. The one thing that I did talk about, when people score those kind of points every night, that's a task. But it's also a great gift to be able to do something like that against every defense that's set against you. And in Oklahoma City, he and Russell Westbrook, two dynamic players, they had to do it themselves. If they didn't score 70 against the very best teams, they probably weren't going to win against the best teams. Against the good teams, they could win. But late in the year, teams, it becomes more and more pressure on you as teams watch you every night, coaches scout you. And just watching him play, frankly, he was my favorite player in the league. And to think we could get somebody like him is beyond my comprehension. Do I feel badly for Oklahoma City? Sure, I feel badly. And a lot of people say you don't feel that way. I sincerely do feel that way. But again, you can't blame him. You blame the system.
Yeah. I thought it was so interesting, Jerry, that when the process was happening, Stephen Curry and Clay, but especially Steph, called Kevin Durant and said, if you want to come here, this is going to be our team, and we're happy to defer to you. It's not just going to be about Steph and Clay and Draymond anymore, because we know how great you are and how much you can contribute, and we can win together. And Kevin Durant said later on that having those superstars call him and reach out to him to say that meant a lot. What does that say about Steph and Clay and Draymond to a degree that they are willing to defer when need be?
Well, I don't think any of them are going to have to defer. I think they just keep playing the way they're going to play. I just think, honestly, I think Kevin can score more points for us and easier because he's not going to be ganged up on. You cannot leave Thompson or Curry alone. You can't. But I think the real key to this team is the way we pass the ball. We probably have 7 really good passers in our team. We were lucky enough to get a tremendously good rookie who had got great knowledge of the game, and we got him. We bought a second-round pick, but we had him highly rated. His name is Patrick McCall. This kid really knows how to play. I mean, he can pass the ball, he rebounds, he defends loose balls he's going to get. He's going to be a terrific player in this league. Plus, he can shoot threes, and he's really young. But the maturity of these players, and I think the thing that the Warrior fans should be excited about, if we can maintain these people, and a bunch of them are going to be free agents next year, including Kevin and Steph Curry, and also Sean Livingston. We have 3 players that are really capable players. Other teams can go out and bid on them also. So we have to have the right atmosphere. We have to have the right environment for all those players to want to stay. And if we do, this team, it's really young. Kevin Durant's 28, Curry's 28, Klay Thompson, 27? Yeah. And then Draymond 27. And a couple rookies we have, really promising rookies. One of them who, our first-round pick, he hadn't had a chance to play. He's 6'11", unbelievably skilled. And
how about Damian Jones from Vanderbilt?
Absolutely. And he's unbelievably skilled. He can shoot the heck out of the ball, too. Plus, he's almost 7 feet tall.
Yeah. You hear about teams and the regular season, the lull of it. Golden State wins an NBA championship. Then they eclipse the NBA record by beating Chicago's regular season record. Obviously, you guys didn't get the back-to-back done. But when you hear about teams that experience the lulls of the regular season, especially February, March, and then you watch Golden State, and it seems like every game matters to this team. Is that a top to bottom deal when you're talking about Bob Myers, the GM, all the way down? Is it the players, the coaches? I mean, how does this team continually find ways to stay focused, even in games that maybe other teams wouldn't take as seriously in the regular season?
Well, we talked earlier before we're here talking today, and I don't know if you're aware of who his father is, but he once owned the Seattle Supersonics, and which is now the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I know how disappointed the fans were that the team left Seattle to go to Oklahoma City, very much like the fans are disappointed that Kevin left there. So it has the same kind of feel to it. But this league, to me, is about playing with people who really understand the nuances of the game. And everyone thinks that scoring is the thing that drives them to see players. Teams have always been what have driven me as a personnel guy, as someone who's been involved with franchises. And the ownership of our team made it very evident what they wanted to see. They wanted to see a winning team. It takes a lot of good fortune to be able to assemble teams, and for the most part, we did it through the draft, which is extraordinary these days. But I just love teams that pass the ball, and when you pass the ball, everyone likes to see a pretty dunk and a spectacular dunk and the oohs and ahs. But many times, the thing that leads to a spectacular play will be the pass. And that's one of the things that really makes this team good. But ownership is so important. People who work for you. The environment you work in should be fun. And knowing full well that if you walk into an office, regardless of what your team is, you don't know the score, you can tell by the people in there the next day who won, if you didn't even know the score of the game. Because they would be high and low. And you have to allow, I've always felt you have to allow the people you work with to feel that excitement. Almost feel like you're in the locker room before a game, hoping your team wins, and you go there, and all of a sudden, you happen to lose, and I'll guarantee you the right kind of people work there will come in with the same enthusiasm to work it the next day. But I think the most important thing is to have that kind of environment where everyone wants to win, and everyone has a small piece of the action regardless to where they are. I don't like micromanaged teams. I don't. Sports is not about micromanaging. You need really good players, you need the right coach to coach a team, and you need the proper environment so those players can prosper, and also the fans can come and have the experience of an evening. I saw a game, a year or two ago, where this game was the most boring game I've ever seen in my life. We were playing Sacramento, and it was really close at halftime. We weren't doing anything. And I was saying to myself, because the game, I live in Los Angeles, and I travel up to see the game, and all of a sudden the third quarter starts. And I saw something happen in the third quarter, and this is why people should come to a basketball game. Don't leave. Klay Thompson scored 37 points in one quarter. I have never seen anything like this in my life in a basketball game. Our fans, and we have fantastic fans, from the middle of the third quarter, they stood the whole game. And our players, this shows the unselfishness of a team. They threw him the ball. They looked for him every time down the court. He made, I think, 10 straight threes. I mean, from everywhere. And I mean, it was like you walked out and said, what in the world did I just witness here? I don't think I will see that again. I really don't.
I think, Jerry, you should be doing commercials for the NBA, not just the Warriors, because this is the kind of stuff they try to sell. It's our game. We love the game. The league itself is healthy right now, for the most part. You've seen a transition, obviously, from David Stern to Adam Silver. You and I have talked about it before. Is there one thing, Jerry, that needs to be done, though, whether it's with the new CBA, with contracts, et cetera, that hasn't been done that you would love to see be implemented by Adam Silver or the owners?
Well, David Stern left this league in really good hands with Adam Silver. And David did a remarkable job through all the ups and downs that were going on within the league. And finally, we have a league that is not only incredibly important in this country, but worldwide. It's just amazing. Almost all the all-star players are selected by China, not our fans, which I don't like that, of course, but it is in good hand. Adam's a great guy. He's different than David. He's tough. He's brilliant, smart. And I think the thing that we will see, and the thing that I'd like to see, is that how can you prevent this league from failing or taking a step backwards when there's so much great content to watch every night? Everyone watches NFL football. They play one night a week. How would you like to watch a great team play maybe 4 times in 1 week? If you love it, I watch every game. I have the NBA package. Oh, my God. And I can sit there starting at, 5:30 or in Los Angeles, or 4:30 in Los Angeles, and I can watch games till midnight. And it gives you a clue what's going on around the league. But I think the NFL today is about parity. There's one really great team out there in New England, and it's about parity. I don't necessarily think that's the best thing. I like to see a lot of good teams. I like rivalries. It's still very important in football, of course. But I think the one thing that there's so much money in basketball today, you'd like to see the players who have earned that money get it, not the ones who haven't earned it. And there's some players that have been grossly overpaid last year to a crazy quirk in the NBA agreement. And you'd like to see players who really play every night and play the game at a high level that people pay to see. And there's only a few of those in the league, and fortunately we got 3 or 4 of those on one team. And so it makes selling our franchise easy. But where there's success, there's always a chance for failure. And this league, if it can continue to grow and expand its fan base, I've always said that, watching great basketball players and great athletes in any sport, I think football and basketball, you see some extraordinary athletes. And every night you go out there, you just don't know what you're going to see. And I think that's the beauty of this game, and I think it will continue to grow. I don't care. I've seen football players that weigh 330 pounds that think they're basketball players. They go and dunk and stuff like that, and if you talk to them and get to know them a little bit, they love watching basketball. If I were a basketball player, there's 1 or 2 guys. I think LeBron James could have been an incredible football player, but
he was an all-state receiver.
Oh, yeah, but he's doing the right thing right now, believe me. But I just admire the skill and the grace of some of our players, and hopefully, and I think the league is in very capable hands, and I think that they have to continue the growth of this league. And the one thing that I think would be important is if franchises have a better chance to keep their franchise players. We're not going to have that to happen, and again, we'll have 3 very attractive free agents next year.
You mentioned LeBron. I'm so glad you did, because I was going to go there at some point. Some people have said that his legacy has now improved because he was able to go home to Cleveland and win a championship. Others have said that his legacy was already cemented. Where do you stand on that, Jerry, especially considering how well he did play against Golden State?
Well, I think the last 6 years his teams have been in the NBA.
6 straight finals.
I think 6 NBA finals. I think that says enough about his greatness as a player, leader. He's one of, and for some reason, I don't know why, I think a lot of people don't give him his just due sometime because he's such an incredible player. He's a Swiss Army knife. He does everything. Rebound, passes, block shots, scores the ball. And I think when he leaves the game, I think his legacy will be huge. I think near where Jordan's legacy has been. But this player, someone I admire a lot. I mean, he competes every night. Yeah. He doesn't take nights off.
Not only that, but he's also a guy that you've always said, especially around Golden State, the way that guys get other guys to buy in and play well together. LeBron has a way of catapulting and galvanizing those around him and making everybody not just better, but so much better. There is a lot to be said about that in a day and age where we know players just want to get theirs.
Well, if you've had the success, players are going to follow you like that. And I think the thing that most people don't understand about this game is the teams that pass the ball the best and defend the best are usually the best teams. And in our league, we value scoring, we value exciting plays, they're fun to see. But at the end of the game, the thing that matters most is which team scores the most points. And I've always said that when we have very poor teams, there are going to be players on poor teams. Somebody's going to average 18 or 20 points. And we've seen some bad teams here in the last few years. That
You don't have to go too far down the street.
Well,
See that?
no, that's a low blow. No, there's been a number of teams that have not prospered. And again, it's about talent. Gathering talent is a real key to putting a team together and keeping that talent together and having the right coach to coach those teams. But today in free agency, it's instant gratification. But last year, I saw some players that I think are good players that are grossly overpaid, not for performance, because of teams thinking they can help themselves a lot. And there's going to be many of those contracts, I think, that are going to be looked back on and say, oh, my gosh, this is a mistake. And because they're not going to be able to trade him if they do want to trade him.
Stephen Curry, go back to him for a second. I know this is a bigger theme question. He's a guy that people have said he would struggle in other eras because of the physicality. I know where you stand on that. I think it's insane. I wonder, is there a player, though, that you almost feel like, this is a twofold question, would be better in another era in today's game? Or is there a player you played with that you felt like if this guy could have played today in a different generation, he would have been that much better?
Well, I think there's a lot of them. But I think one of the things that people don't look at is, athletes today start, particularly basketball, they start at such an early level in their lives. And that's why we see we see guys that are 6'11" that were guards, and they grew so fast, and they practice their shooting the ball. Everyone's a skilled ball handler. Some of them you don't want to handle the ball, by the way. But, I think there's players that could transition from different periods for sure, and particularly if they were able to have the kind of facilities today, the kind of information you can to make yourself a better player. All these AAU teams get a chance to compete all summer long, and it does add to the progression of a player's skill. A thing that really is pretty interesting is to watch YouTube sometime and watch some of these young kids play basketball in there. I mean, it's just amazing. I saw some pictures of Allen Iverson's son, LeBron James's son, Jason Williams, White Chocolate, his little son. He looks just like him. These kids are amazingly skilled for an early age of their lives. And it's amazing because how they have inherited the way their fathers play in terms of how they play the game. And they're really young. Now, what are they going to be when they get older and they face better competition? It will be fun to see. But these kids are so skilled today, and they pick up a basketball. What's the first thing they do? They can dribble it. They can't shoot it. They can dribble it. So they become good ball handlers. And some of them, parents, provide every environment they can. These kids get hooked on the game. They get hooked on some player. And so they constantly try to emulate that player. Maybe their skill doesn't let them do it, but they get to the point where they figure out, well, maybe I can play like this guy. But again, information is what they have.
You go around the league, Jerry, and you ask enough GMs or players or former players about the transition of big guys that are now playing away from the basket. And I think one of the biggest things for me is you watch the NBA, and if you even look back 10 years ago, it's a lot different now. And one of the reasons is because, as you alluded to, you have very few big guys that are now coming into the league with their back to the basket. They're not comfortable. They don't want to do it. They want to spread the floor. You hear that term stretch four. Obviously, you guys have done it with Draymond Green very well. Is that healthy for the NBA, Jerry, to have guys that are big guys, 6'11", 7 feet, that are mostly not in the paint?
Well, again, the thing that's really changed this game are the coaches. The dynamic three-point line. So many shots that are shot behind the three-point line today. It's amazing. And I'm not talking about smaller players. I'm talking about big players. And there's one kid in the league right now, Karl Towns in Minnesota. The guy shoots threes like a guard, and he's really skilled. He can play with his back to the basket. But you would like to see your bigger people play closer to the basket for a lot of reasons, because with all the long shots, if somebody's active and they miss, those shots are going to be rebounding in areas where you should be able to go get them. But with those big guys, we'll see so many guards today chase down rebounds. Russell Westbrook, he chases down rebounds all over the place. He gets them on the defensive board. He gets them on the offensive board. But he has a great instinct to follow the ball. But I think the game has changed, the three-point line, and the coaches have changed tremendously. It's not as restrictive of a game. I think in many ways it might be a little bit easier to score if that were the case, because you're always hearing teams, well, you know, the help defense. Well, when you have people running at you all the time, that's when really great offensive players are going to go by them and create another problem for the defense. And if that guy can pass, you're going to get a lot of layups in the game.
Well, if you watch a Golden State game, any game, playoffs or regular season, one thing that I've noticed a lot, and I think it makes for great theater and entertainment, is they'll often pass up a fairly uncontested layup for a wide open three, and you know what? It works most of the time.
Well, it drives me crazy because I think every possession counts. But when you have players the caliber of the players we have, particularly shooting, it would be amazing if people just go and watch, usually after practice, to watch Durant, Curry, and Thompson shoot the ball. It's amazing. I mean, I like to watch it because they don't
Miss.
They don't miss, but they don't even touch the rim. These guys are just amazing shooters, and when you're passing up a sure layup for Steph Curry or Thompson out of the corner's not a hard three.
Shortest three.
Oh, it's not a hard shot at all. But to watch them shoot them, it's like, hell, I've watched make 25, 30 in a row a lot, and it looks like it's the easiest thing you could possibly do. But those guys have got beautiful shots, and they've got great touch, and it doesn't surprise me that we do that. I don't like it, but we do it anyway.
How much would you have loved, Jerry, to play with the three-point line, especially in the prime of your career? I mean, you can imagine how many more points you would have scored. Because if you watch any old Jerry West tapes, not only are you getting the rim, but your jump shot was, you know, it's the logo. I mean, one of the most beautiful jumpers we've ever seen, but you didn't have that three-point line.
Well, I think it adds to, if you're a really capable scorer, regardless of anyone who it might have been in different eras, it gives you a little bit more of an advantage, I think, because players will play up more against you. And if you can go by people, it gives you a chance to get to the free throw line. And if you're shooting 80 to 90% from the free throw line, it just adds to your game. And as I say, the coaches, one of the coaches in this league who has gotten so much criticism, I think he's a heck of a coach, is Mike D'Antoni. Every team now is trying to play the way Mike D'Antoni's team played.
10, 15 years ago.
Well, he was kind of an innovator of it, and yet people wouldn't buy into it because they were so traditionally steeped. But that's not what you see today.
I wonder with Tim Duncan. He for me, he's one of the best five players ever. I think he's the best power forward ever. But I don't know if he still gets the amount of recognition he deserves, because he wasn't a guy that we saw a lot on highlight films. He wasn't a guy that was out in the media a lot, but he was so consistent and such a wonderful player, and he won. Where do you think he is, Jerry, all time? Not just for bigs, but anywhere.
Well, frankly, he's one of my favorite players of all time. I like players who fly under the radar. You know, he didn't play one of those high-flying places. He played for a franchise that undersells itself all the time, and everyone has great respect for the Spurs. But the way he played the game, it is just amazing how, if you had asked players who played with him what kind of a player he was, just an amazing player, an amazing guy too. I love players like that.
Do you think he'll go down and get, 15, 20 years down the road, we'll be talking about him like we talk about some of the great all-time? I mean, will he get that recognition, whether it's Bill Russell or Elijah Wan or some of the Kareem, some of the best bigs ever, or the best big ever? Will he get that publicity?
Because of his personality, probably not, but it's richly deserved if he does. he's just one of those unique people. He doesn't like publicity. It's not what makes him work. He was just the ultimate competitor. I saw him play when he was like a sophomore in college, and watched him play 2 games. And I said to myself, "My gosh, this guy's the #1 pick in the draft." And I don't know, some writer asked me about him. I said he's #1 pick in the draft, and I had to call. Well, I called his coach the next day, Dave Odom at Wake Forest, and I said to him, Dave, I didn't mean to imply that he should come out in the draft, but to show you what he stayed in school for 4 years, where anyone else would have vacated school and gone out and played for the money. That's not who he is, and that's one of the things I've always admired about him.
He was a guy that from St. Croix that swam as a kid. He didn't even play basketball really until he was 15, 16 years old. So you consider that, he's one of those special, unique guys, Jerry, and I'm so glad you said that not only does he do it the right way on the court, but off the court, you never heard about him getting in trouble. We hear so many players, you wonder what if. With Tim Duncan, we never had to do that because he was consistent every year for 20 years.
I guess the thing that he probably survived most, a shark didn't get him when he was swimming.
In the water.
But everyone talks about all these young players and everything and getting into trouble. Look, we're asking 18-year-old kids who have, some of them who don't have a solid background, who come from homes that are maybe single-parent homes. We have some wonderful kids in this league, and we need more mentors for those players. And franchises should take that responsibility sometime. And it's just, if somebody, let's say you're the first or second pick in the draft or whatever, and they were paying you $4 or $5 million a year, and you were struggling just to survive, and the people that come to you, that want to take you around, show you places, those people might have more influence on people within your own organization. So I think they need special attention. And if they get the special attention, they'll grow to be really, really good players. Keep them away from, or try to keep them away from environments that are not good for them, people that are not good for them, and to, almost be a second family to them. They need more mentoring, period.
Yeah. Do you think, Jerry, with that said, that our one-and-done rule is good enough right now the way it is?
Well, I don't like the one-and-done rule. 2 years would be fine. I think kids have to learn how to care for themselves in an environment. They go to college, and they do get a lot of care there. They really do. But if they're one-and-done kids, I would gather that many of them, after the second semester in school, might have registered for the second semester and probably didn't even go to class because they knew they were going to be drafted in the first round. They knew there was going to be guaranteed money there for them. And so I think the rule was flawed. That would be one thing I think would help the game tremendously. But I think it would help the kids a lot to go to school for 2 years. You have to learn how to live in a social environment. You have to learn how to be around people that are different than you. It's a learning experience, and I think that would be, even for the Players Association, if there was some rule that they could do that, work together cooperatively. The NFL's got it right. You can't come out
3
until
years
you're a
at
junior.
least out of high school.
And it allows you to mature in a lot of different ways. But I think it would be a great environment for them to stay a year in school, 2 years. And the one thing now, when you draft a player, everyone talks about promise, okay? 1 year in college does not do that. It does not do that. It'll show you talent. But some of these kids who get drafted in the top 10 or 11 in the draft, they're failures. And so when they leave, they'll leave with, 3 years of guaranteed money. And after that, if they're not good enough, where did their lives take them? Do they go to Europe and play? Possibly. And they can go over there. And it might be the greatest learning experience they have, to get away from the environment they're in, to get another country where maybe they don't speak the language, the culture is different. That might be good for them also, but I do wish that we would have players that had to play for 2 years.
I do as well. I would love to open it up to the audience, considering that we have a lot of questions that people would love to ask you, Jerry.
Hey, what's going on, Mr. West?
Hi.
Doing good. So my question for you is, during your NBA career, what was your favorite game that you ever played, or your favorite team that you played against?
Well, I loved playing in New York. I really did. When I was at West Virginia University, we played there 2 or 3 times, and we played a very fast-paced game. And the fans were always receptive to our teams there, and we always had huge crowds there. But even when I played here in the NBA, I felt that fans had a great knowledge of this game. And incredible fans, but also critical. Criticism is good, okay? Criticism is good because I think if you're the right kind of player and you don't take it personally, and I think anyone who has been around long in sports, I really don't care if people write derogatory things about me at all. I don't care because I think life is about balance, and if anyone just wrote positive things about you all the time, you would get up every morning thinking, well, I'm the best person in the world. That's not the way this world is. And I've always felt that today people are so much more critical. You see people that on commentary shows, all the talk radio shows, particularly sports related, some of these people have never played sports before, and they don't know how difficult it is. And they don't know how competitive some of these sports are. And I think in football, to me, I admire the football players greatly, the tough courage that they have to undergo. In basketball, the things I admire about basketball and also hockey, try to play an 82-game schedule. It's tough. And so if you're really good, you have something unique inside of you that tells you you're going to be competitive every night. And I think that's what fans really want to see.
Hi, Jay West. It's a privilege and an honor for you to be here.
Well, thank you.
My question is to you: that what aspirations? What did you look up to with Jerry Buss? What was your relationship like with him, and how did that inspire you? How did he inspire you? And when you was the owner of the Lakers during that time, and also my second question is that which player reminds you of yourself currently right now? What advice would you give to that particular player to improve his game?
I didn't hear the
First question was your relationship with Dr.
Jerry-
Buss.
yeah.
Oh, okay, I heard the second part. Well, I had a unique relationship with Jerry Buss. He was a fan when he bought the team, but the one thing I think if you're working with the right people, they'll tell you what they want to see, and you try to replicate that as much as you can. He was a great guy, had a lot of fun working with him, and he was a fan, and he thought basketball should be more than a basketball game. He thought it should be an event. And then the player that would remind me of me a little bit in the league today, in some ways maybe Klay Thompson a little bit, because of he's a good defender also, and that was probably the one thing that allowed me to play early in my career because I was an offensive player who could score, but it was harder for me to score, but I was asked to score every night. And that got a lot easier as I went on. But the thing that really saved me early in my career was the ability to defend people. But I do admire Klay a lot. He flies under the radar, and he's a hell of a player that doesn't get much credit.
And that's also bothered you that people have associated you with being this unbelievable scorer, Jerry. You told me, you took so much pride in your defense, and it's bothered you that you haven't maybe got that same recognition because you did score so many points.
Well, scoring was easy because I think some people have a gift for doing it. And I think the thing that really makes a score is not someone who shoots the ball, the person who gets to the free throw line night in and night out, because you're not going to make all the tough shots when your body doesn't feel right. But as I say, into today's game, it's a lot less physical than when we played, a lot less physical. You can hand check, grab, and hold. And so if you learn how to use that to your advantage, you have to learn how to do the opposite thing as a scorer by using your body, your hands. And I think it's a little bit easier to play today because you don't have that. After a game, you look at yourself and you have scratches all over your body where guys had grabbed a hold of you, grabbed your uniform. You can't do that today. And so I think that makes it a little bit easier, but the game is a demanding game, and as I say, the one thing that I really enjoyed, I enjoyed the defensive part of it a lot myself.
One more?
Hi, Mr. West. So I also went to West Virginia, and I think there's like such an awesome culture just surrounding you. Like I would walk Jerry West Boulevard every day. So I was just wondering, what is something that you learned from your time in Morgantown that you took with you in your career?
You're saying in Morgantown, obviously West Virginia. What did you learn from that experience in college that you maybe transitioned to your career?
Well, I think the greatest word in the world is humility. People in West Virginia are very humble. They're very, very giving, kind. I'd like to think I'm that kind of person. I think at this point in my life, the thing that brings me the biggest joy is to give. And there's a lot of ways you can give, and my involvement with Janssen Pharmaceuticals is a way for me to give back from people who might have a AFib. That to me is really, really important, to be able to give at this point in my life. I've been so fortunate to get out in an environment that, frankly, I didn't think there was any hope for, to get out of it. And I love the people in West Virginia. I love the state of West Virginia. I have a home there that I live there in 3 months every year. I don't want to forget where I came from, period. I don't want to ever change. And a lot of times when you get a chance to interact with people, interact with fans, there's not anyone that I wouldn't talk to. I don't care whether they did not like me or didn't care for me. I would always talk to them. And a lot of things, harsh things written about you in the newspaper, and particularly as an executive, not so much as a player. The people who would write them would call the next day or a day after. Some people wouldn't even bother to call them. I wanted to show them I was human by communicating with them. I think it's right, wrong, as I mentioned before. Balance is the most important thing in your life. And how you present yourself to the people who like you as a player, as a person. And that opportunity would have never came from me unless I'd had a skill. I'm probably sure I would be dead today living in West Virginia, growing up how I grew up. But as I say, humility is the greatest word in the world, and I think I learned that from the people in a state where people don't have a lot, people struggle there. I learned that a lot, and that's probably been the thing that has driven me today. Just don't change, just give, try to help people. You can give by giving resources if you have enough, but you also can give your time because it might make a difference in some young person's life.
Wow, Jerry West, thank you so much. What a real pleasure. We really appreciate you coming here to Build.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much.